I remember one. He goes, Colt, he's like, I appreciate all this. We just need to think about it. And I don't know. I heard Grant Cardone say this, and I'm like, I'm just going to use this line. I'm like, what's there to think about? A thought takes 1 second, right? What do you need to think about? Why don't you just sign the paper and let's do it? And then I was at the point where I'm like, I'm just going to try it. Mm-hmm. And I tried it, and he's like, you're right. And he signed with me. I couldn't believe it. It worked. A thought just takes 1 second. What do you need to think about? So do I recommend doing that on everyone? No, right? So you got to understand the different personalities that you're around. But this guy was a high D, like get to the point, give me the data and everything. And then when he said, I need to think about it, high Ds don't need to think about anything. They make decisions right away, right? Hey, everybody, and welcome to the New Agent Jumpstart podcast. My name's Colt Callison, and I'm here with my co-host and wife, Ashton.
Hello.
Hello. I feel like that's our intro every single time.
I don't know what else to say.
It's like you got to start out somehow.
Here I am.
Well, we for those that have been paying attention, we missed last week. So
we did.
That was not a good deal. We were
swamped.
We were swamped. So not only did we have listings, we had buyers that you were going out with. But then we're hiring for the company. So we had, all kinds of in-person interviews. A lot of interviews. So, we're growing, and we're trying to build this company right along with what we are preaching. And it just took, we want to find great talent. Yeah. So, we hired an inside sales agent that joined us. He's making phone calls and everything, getting trained on outbound prospecting, everything like that, finding sellers to have listing appointments on, which I'm happy because we're going to be talking about the listing appointment today.
Yeah.
And how to prepare for that. So, we're trying to build a process, a business that runs without us, and there's a team in place. And in the beginning, that's going to take a lot of our time to not only continue to do business ourselves to sustain, the company, but also get these other people in place. So I'm excited. I'm exhausted. It's mentally challenging sometimes, juggling everything, but it's starting to come together.
Yeah.
So, hopefully we don't miss any more weeks, but last week we did not have the time at all.
Well, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. Like, we know our limits, and we knew we weren't going to do a good podcast if we did it that day. We were exhausted. We weren't in it, so we just put a pause on it until this week, and I think that's fine. Yeah.
So, but today is all about preparing for the listing presentation or listing appointment, I guess. This is something that I've been excited to talk about because it's right in my wheelhouse. I used to go on probably anywhere between 8 to 12, 13, sometimes 14 appointments a week when I was really calling hot and heavy on expires and canceleds and everything like that. So I love the listing side. I'm not so much on the buy side. You like the buy side a little bit more. So I love the business aspect of the listing side. So I guess that's a little bit more of my D personality that comes out. But yeah, so I'm excited to get this one off and running. If you're new to the channel, New Agent Jumpstart is all about helping brand new agents, right? Get started. We see a high failure rate in this industry, unfortunately. And I think it's because a lot of people don't have the guidance that they need to really get started properly. So if you're a newer agent, feel free, like and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to, be your guide, I guess, a little bit, or at least one of them. And if you're a seasoned agent looking to grow to that 6-figure mark, then this is definitely the place. We've never made under 6 figures. We can definitely get you to that mark. If you're a team leader looking to build a big team, we're not the place for you.
No, we're learning how to do that ourselves.
Yep, learning how to do. We got an idea, read the book, and studied a lot of great teams, and we're just trying to implement what they do. So I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, being 10, we got a perfect team, and we're going. I'd say we're around a 6.
Yeah.
So we're definitely a lot further than the new agent. I've been doing this for 11 years. You've been doing this for 4 years. But, we are definitely not at that multi-million-dollar a year GCI team yet.
Nope.
So, but we'll get there. Yeah, we'll get there. So, starting this off, when it comes to listing appointments, what do you think your number one thing should be? How do you prepare for a listing appointment?
So I'm obviously not nearly as experienced as you are at listings. Every time I have a listing, I come to you with a question. I'm finally getting to where I trust myself with the comp process because I've sold so many homes on the buy side. I have a pretty good idea of what I'm doing with that. But preparing for a listing is a lot of research and preparing what you're going to present to the seller. And every single listing appointment, I tweak something. I may add something just to show value. But the biggest thing that I do now, learning from you, is making sure I know the numbers.
No, it's the research is definitely. I think that's where a lot of agents lack, right? Because I can't even count how many listing appointments I've been on where I'd present actual data. It's kind of a weird concept, I guess, because many of the sellers, when I go up against 4 or 5, I've gone up against 10 other agents before. And I don't know how many times the seller says, nobody's ever shown me any of this.
Yeah.
Like agents just don't go out with data. They go out and they say, well, I kind of feel like based off my experience, the house could go, which is all good and gravy. But if you have no data to support that, now you're going to be arguing with the seller.
Well, and I think it's very important to realize that we're getting into a market where you have to have the information. It's not low-hanging fruit anymore. It's probably not going to sell within 24 hours with multiple offers like we were the past couple of years. I mean, depending on what it is, it might do that.
Yeah.
But we actually have to have the conversations of, okay, so this is what we think we can list it at. But if it doesn't sell at this, we're going to be looking at lowering it to this. And so numbers are a lot different, and being confident in those numbers is very important. And you don't get that unless you actually know what you're talking to them about.
Yeah. Listing inventory has definitely come back a lot, at least in Wichita, right? Wichita, Kansas. So as far as East Coast, West Coast, I'm not sure. I don't know those markets. I don't even pretend to know those markets. But I know for us, if you look pre-pandemic times, we're about back at that. I mean, we don't have low inventory. Our houses are sitting on the market for much longer times. And so you have to be able to set the expectations up front with actual data to support. I don't know how many times I've told a seller, look, don't shoot the messenger. I only interpret what the market's doing, and I show you how to read what the market's doing. This is not my opinion. It's all in black and white.
Well, and I think something that's really important to understand is like I got in right around 2020, which that was a great market to be a buyer's agent. I mean, I sold so many homes because everybody wanted to buy because of interest rates. I had fewer listings because I was newer on that side of things. And if we had a listing, a lot of time you took that. But I had a lot of low hanging fruit with us getting into a more, I don't know how to call it or how to say it. Just you have to have a more skilled mindset going into a listing appointment now.
It's a skill-based market now.
Exactly. Yeah. And so like you have the skill because you were doing listing appointments before it was easy to sell a house. It's been easy the past few years, and now it's getting a little bit harder. And I know me and a couple other people in our office kind of freak out when our listings sit, and you're like, get a grip. Like you had listings expire, and I'm actually about to have my first expired listings, and I'm like, this is hard, but it's not. It's just the market right now and learning how to navigate that.
Well, I knew I would run a business plan, right? And I would know, okay, if I took 10 listings, 3 of those were not going to sell. And so it was just, I would take a listing and I wouldn't get all excited because I didn't know if that was one of the 3 that wouldn't sell. And so that's a different market than where we've been where, okay, I'm going to put this on the market. Don't really care, because we're going to get 20 offers in 24 hours and they're all going to be over asking price anyway. So with appraisal gaps, appraisal waivers, inspection waivers, it's not that kind of a market anymore. And if you don't prepare yourself to really understand how to conduct a thorough market report, and we call them CMA, comparative market analysis, right? If you don't know how to do a complete CMA and be able to present that to the seller, you are going to get left behind.
Yep.
It is a skill-based market, right? And so, but if you learn this at the other side of it, if you learn these things, you set yourself apart from any other agent that's going up and interviewing, as your competition, right? So if the seller is interviewing multiple agents, you're going to set yourself apart by a long shot just because you came prepared. And we're going to talk about how to do that here in the rest of this episode. So I'm really looking forward to diving in. So I agree with you that research is the number one key. When it comes to research, I look for, well, for one, I'm not the kind of agent that pulls the RPR report off the MLS, right? You got the cloud CMAs, the RPR report that's like 80 pages long. Nobody's going to read through that crap anyway, right? So you need to be able to present in such a way that it's quick, it's easy, it's understandable, everything like that. While I'm thinking about it, and I'll put a link up to the video, but I go over how to be the market expert and actually how to prepare on the computer and walk you through how I do CMA and actually get ready for it. So I'll link to that up above because I know I posted that video on the channel a couple weeks ago. So it's an older video, but it still stands true. I still follow the exact same thing. I've been doing this same system for probably 7 years now, 4 years in, it was a lot of trial and error and failure. And every part of my listing presentation now is due to getting my teeth kicked in by a seller, right? Something came up. I looked like a complete idiot because I wasn't prepared. And then I adjusted and I said, okay, going forward, this will never happen again. I'm going to hit that.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's how my presentation has came about. So, yeah. But what I'm looking for when I do my market research, I want to find 5 actives, 5 pendings, and 5 solds, right? That's my minimum data that I want to look for in that area that's comparable. And I got this from Ben Kinney. He's with Keller Williams, and he has a great team up in Washington, and he just calls it the 5-5-5 method. And I love it because if I get 5 in each of those categories, I get a really good average for what that home should be around, right? And so, the way you read it is once you have that, I just, on our CM or on our MLS, it's got a CMA summary line, right? So I can pull them all up, hit CMA summary, and it puts them in the categories, whether they're active, pending, or sold. And I don't really go back any more than 6 months. Typically, an appraiser's not going to use much more than 6 months. But what I'm looking for is what's the pattern? Where's the market going? And typically you find that the solds, they are lower on average of price because that's where the market has been. The pendings is kind of where the market's at right now because they've found a buyer. You're going to find that most of the time, if it's in a market that's appreciating and it's not a declining market, the pending sales price, or at least the list price, because you don't know what they sold for, though that list price will be a little bit higher, right, than what the solds were. And then the actives are where the market's trying to go, right? And so you want to price it competitively. You want to be under the actives so that you're a competitive value, but you want to still be ahead of the pendings because that's where the market is now. And so you're going to try to continue driving that market forward. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I was just doing a CMA before we came in here, and it's crazy how nitty gritty you can get it to where basically you find the house's twin. It's like, this is exactly what you're selling and this is what they got for it. And that's always my goal because it's a lot easier to explain to a seller, hey, this is the exact same house. You may want to list it here, but this is what they actually got. And so those numbers, being able to pinpoint, what has actually sold, and like, that's real. That's not made up. Like, these are the real numbers. That a lot of times does all the arguing for me. I don't have to pressure people into changing their mind. They just see it and they're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I see that too because the average line on those 3 column or 3 different, categories, that's going to give you a really good estimate of what the house could be. And then from there, I just dig down and say, okay, of these 5 or 6 or whatever, which home best matches the one that I'm looking to list, right? And then let's say the average is 227, but this one sold for 230 or something like that. Well, now I'll print out that old MLS sheet and say, hey, this house, if we were looking at it, it's exactly like yours,
Right.
And yeah, they went at 230 and they got a buyer in 4 days or whatever like that. And so, yeah,
I feel
just
like
narrowed it down.
the more you can talk about the comparables, honestly, the better, because it shows that you actually did research. I just recently started doing the printout of the MLS sheet of a comparable instead of just showing the CMA sheet. And that actually worked wonders because they got a visual of what the house actually was. And it was almost identical to their house. And so that put a different picture in their mind than even the price, because they're like, oh, that is our house. And so that's actually a really good tip. I learn something every time I talk to you about listings. So and this is a good one to watch if you're newer to listings, because I have so much knowledge on the buy side. But for whatever reason, when it comes to listings, like this switch flips and I'm like, am I doing this right? Like, is that really what this is worth? Like, and I have the knowledge. It's just a different ball game when you're showing up representing them instead of trying to help them buy it. Like, it's a completely different personality. It's a completely different conversation because there is a cost to selling versus with the buyer, it's kind of exciting. And for the most part, I'm basically free to them. And it takes knowledge, and it takes a pretty heavy personality to be able to take on a listing, in my opinion, and do well. Because if you are thin-skinned, you are not going to do well as a listing agent.
No, you're not. And I'll say that, I had the benefit of when I came in and I was a buyer's agent, homes weren't flying off the market, right? Mm-hmm. So I had to actually do research.
Yeah.
I had to verify that the listing agent's price was legit.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's something that I think helped me, because every time I was getting ready to write an offer, I would tell my buyer, hey, look, if this is the house that you want, that's awesome. I'll go back to the office and I'll do a complete market report and see where I would list the home if I was to sell it. Right. Sometimes that would be where the listing agent said, and I'd say, hey, I think they're priced correctly. And sometimes be like, they are smoking crack.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so funny because when I was selling early on, and you were still training me in a lot of ways, you're like, did you do a CMA for this house? And I'm like, a CMA is irrelevant. We have to go 25 grand over asking. Like, it doesn't matter. There's multiple offers. Well, now it matters because we're not in that market anymore, at least in a lot of price points. There's a few it's still like that. But even then, you still need to make sure it makes sense, because we've peaked, in my opinion. And if you go 10 to 20 grand over now, it's not going to appraise.
No.
Because I think the market corrected itself with finally appraisers are like, okay, yeah, this is what people are going to buy houses for now. Now we're not getting that anymore.
Yep.
And I've had more low appraisals this year than I had in the past 2 years.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, the appraisers just aren't giving it anymore. And because the demand's not as high, right?
Right.
I remember getting calls from appraisers, be like, hey, how many offers did you get on this thing? And you'd be like, shoot, I got 8, 9 offers, and we've been listed for 48 hours.
Yeah.
And so then it's just like, well, okay, well, obviously the demand for that price was there, so that's, I think that's a lazy way of doing an appraisal. I think that's a bunch of crap, but, it is what it is. But now you don't have that demand. And so appraisers are getting back to what they used to do and actually do market research on it and see if it will appraise. So, I think it's just all about really diving into the numbers, being able to do the research and not showing up with just your opinion, but backing everything. Everything I tell a seller at the table is all backed up with something in writing from my folder. Right. So, we're not, there's never even doubt. This is not my advice. This is not my, opinion or anything. It's black and white.
Yeah.
It's just black and white. So then if they argue with it, say, hey, I completely understand you want, $250 for your house, but you see that everything's selling for $230. How do you expect to get $250, right? And you just put it back on them because you showed them how to read the data. So the cool thing is when you present this way, the way that I'm getting ready to walk through, they will come to the same conclusion you did.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always asked the question, and we'll go over it here in a minute, but I've always asked the question basically, where do you think it should be listed at? And every single time, I've never had one seller choose outside of the range I have on my net estimate.
Mm-hmm.
And usually my ranges, now keep in mind, we're a lower price point, we're 225, 250 average, but my ranges are only a $10,000 range.
Right.
Right. It's not a $50,000 or $100,000 range. It's just not the market we're in. Right. So they always guess within about $10,000, and every single time they've always guessed in between my ranges. So, I think when it comes time to present, you gotta stand out. So don't have the cloud CMA, don't have the RPR CMA. My presentation is very simple, right? So I have my folder, and I have the right side of the folder, and I have the left side of the folder. Left side of the folder is all the associated docs, like the seller's disclosure, the lead-based paint, all that kind of stuff, all the stuff that every single listing will probably have, right? The right side is my presentation stuff, right? And I have it in a specific order. I have the old MLS sheet, if there is one. Most of the time, if we're calling it expired or canceled, there's an old MLS sheet, and we're talking off of that sheet, we're talking pricing strategy, we're talking maxing out pictures. Our MLS only allows 36 pictures. We want to max that out for data. I'm talking about having a very long description. And if you're an agent out there that does not have a long description, learn about this thing called ChatGPT.
I have to cut you off here because I literally just had I was doing a CMA and I was looking at the old listing from when they bought it, and it was back in 2021. And literally the remarks, all it stated was nice house. Because back then it wasn't going to be on the market longer than probably 24 hours. Nobody was putting effort into the listing, and I was just dying laughing because I know I'm going to take that and be like, this will be maxed out at this point because you're going to higher hit count on the websites and all this stuff.
Yep.
But that just cracked me up.
So if you don't know, all the websites like Realtor.com, Zillow, Trulia, the more data that we give them through the MLS and syndicate out to them, the higher they rank your home. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's just like Google SEO, search engine optimization. The more data you have on a website, the more, the higher you rank on a Google search results page. It's the same concept, right? So we want to max out pictures. We want to max out the description. We want to put a virtual tour on there. We want to put, any videos that we can that's not branded. We can't brand videos in the MLS. But the more data I give those websites, the higher it's going to rank. So we talk about that. If you do pricing strategy right, and we'll talk about that in another episode, but if you do pricing strategy right, you max out your pictures, you max out your description, you put a virtual tour or a video on there, that's 97% of the issue if you're priced right.
Yeah.
Right? The rest of it is, just randomness. I mean, honestly, if you're priced right, you got good, high quality, professional pictures, not with your cell phone, but professional grade pictures. People see the home for the first time online. That's your first showing.
Yeah.
Right. Your second showing is actually when they go to it for the first time. Right. So you want to have a good, strong first impression up front.
It's a very good way of putting that.
Yep. So that's what I tell people. We need to have the home looking really good for photography, because the very first time somebody sees your house, the very first showing happens in the buyer's living room. Right. Or whatever, wherever they're at on their app, And so we want to have a very first impression on that one. So that's 97% of the problem in my mind, right? If we can price it right, we have good quality pictures, because nobody reads the description. Yeah. Right? I don't care what's in the description. That's why I let ChatGPT just have fun, right? Granted, it needs to be accurate. Right. You can't fluff stuff, but we could talk about how blue the sky was the day we took the listing. I don't care. Nobody reads it, right? They look at the pictures, they look at the price, and then they decide if they want to go look at the house, right? So old MLS sheet, that's number one. Then I have what's called a market statistics report, right? It's a one-page report, and all I'm getting off there is I want to know how many homes, how many four-bedroom homes, let's say it's a four-bedroom house, how many four-bedroom homes hit the market in the last year, how many have sold in the last year. What's my sales ratio, right? Is that 98% of homes sell? Is it 89% of homes sell that are four-bedroom? I want to know that. Yeah. Especially if it's a strong market, but maybe an old expired says, yeah, I don't think the market was that great. Wasn't a good time to sell. Well, if I could show you that it was, but it's probably a marketing or a pricing issue. Would you be open to that conversation? That's the sheet I use, because if 94% of homes sold in the last year, that tells me that was a pretty strong market, right?
Absolutely.
So something with that other 6% of homes that didn't sell, which theirs was included in that 6% because it didn't sell, that's something that we can address, right? And so there's something there that I can help them with. I can solve the problem. So I got that, and then it basically, the other key point on that sheet shows a list price to sales price ratio. So sometimes it's 98% of the list price, sometimes it's 102% of the list price. If it's like 100 and 101, 102% of the list price, then that just tells me that they either went up for closing cost and financed it into the purchase price, or they had multiple offers. So something like that. So then I have a showings report. I love a showings report because it shows me, hey, there was actually a lot of showings in your zip code. There's a lot of buyers looking, so it wasn't the market. And then I have the tax records, right? I just show them what the county appraisal was on that. And I know we're not going to go off county appraisal, but it gives them a baseline, right? And so typically market value is over that. It varies by, market to market. And then the next sheet I have is that sold, the CMA summary, right? Because that's one piece of the pie. There's three pieces, right? So I put the sold separately, and then on the next sheet I have the actives, and then I have the pendings, right? Because then I can say, hey, this is all that kind of stuff, right? And so that's really my presentation. Then at the end of the presentation, once I get to that, my very next sheet is my net estimate that shows my price on it. And so before I even flip the page from the active and pendings, I just ask the question, okay, Ashton, based off the information that we just went over, and here's the sheets again. If you were me, where would you tell me to list this home in order for it to sell? And then you shut up.
Yeah.
You don't say a word, right? And you let them, I've sat there in awkward silence sometimes. I've had people say, well, that's why we have you here, so you can tell us. And I'm like, yeah, I got it. It's on the next sheet. I'm not trying to trick you or anything. It's in black and white. I want to see where your mind is.
Right.
Are we on the same page after going through this data, right? Is there anything that I need to go over again? And then I get them every time. They always say, well, based off this, man, I was really hoping for higher, but now I see I can't get higher. And based off this, I think it should list for that price, right? And that's a soft close. Because then right after that, I flip the paper and say, I completely agree. I got it between this and this. When would you like it to hit the market? We're right there together. So when would you like it to hit the market? It's a soft close. Goes right into basically getting them to sign.
I will say you do the best with listing appointments of anybody I've watched, seen, whatever. Because for me, my personality wants to brush past the seller's net and be like, oh yeah, these are just the numbers. Like I know that's like a huge part of it, but like, how do you help people overcome their fear of talking about the net estimate? Because for me, like that's been something that I've struggled with majorly. So you say it's a soft close, but for me, it's like, hey, because it shows our commission in there. So how do you navigate that now? I hate to even bring it up, especially with the stupid NAR crap. Like, I didn't want to bring it up, but it has changed kind of our conversations with sellers. So how would you navigate that in your soft close?
So for me, it's just numbers are numbers, right? And this is why I think the whole NAR thing, you brought it up, I didn't. This is why I think the whole NAR thing is just a bunch of crap. Because if people would have done it the way that I've been trained and the way that I do it, it was transparent the whole time.
Yeah, there's no question about what you're signing.
Exactly.
The way you're doing it.
So, because one, I have it in the listing agreement, what the overall commission is. But then on my net estimate, which the state of Kansas does not require a net estimate anymore. It absolutely blows my mind. But it's a CYA form for us, right? I just want people to be aware. And I believe in transparency.
Yeah.
How we've gone away from more transparency and we actually have less transparency now with this NAR settlement. That just blows my mind how we're so-called an industry for transparency, but yet we go backwards. But all the numbers are right there on the net estimates, right? So it is a soft close. It's like, hey, I completely agree. You know, we're right there together. I got the low end here. I got the high end here. You're right there. We all agree. When would you like it to hit the market? Right? And they're sitting there thinking about it. And then I'll just go in, well, real quick, let's go over the numbers. Right? And it's right here. It's like, okay, if I get you this price, here's what your payoff is. Here's what my listing fee is. Mm-hmm. Here's what I recommend we offer to a buyer's agent, right? To attract all the buyer's agents. We want all the help in Wichita that we can get. There's about 2,000 agents in Wichita. Mm-hmm. We want to incentivize them to bring us a buyer, right? You got a well. City of Wichita requires a well inspection. Here's termite. Here's, home warranty. I can't get you out of taxes, but I can possibly get you out of home warranty, and it's all a negotiating deal.
Right.
But taxes I can't. But oh, by the way, you have a mortgage, right? Mm-hmm. So you're paying an escrow, right, in your monthly payment. Mm-hmm. The bank has 30 days to refund that money. So I just have to show this as a credit to the buyer,
right,
at the closing. But you're going to get that back. And just make sure you get with your bank and let them know where you're moving to, so they have your forwarding address, right? But if all this played out, which, by the way, when we get an offer, assumptive close, right? Mm-hmm. When we get an offer, I'm assuming that I got the listing already, right? When we get the offer, I'm going to present another net estimate just like this, but it's going to have in the left column, instead of the low side, it's going to have what they offered. And in the right column, it's going to have my proposed counter, what I recommend, right? But if this all played out just this way, here's the bottom dollar. Here's what you're walking away with, money in your pocket. Mm-hmm. Does that work for you? Yeah. All right. And then most of the time, that would be great. Great. Again, when would you like it to hit the market? Mm-hmm. Right. So I don't have a problem going over the numbers, because the numbers are the numbers. They're going to see them whether they're there at the dining room table or they're going to see them at the title company. I'd rather them not get pissed off. Right. I'm going to show them the numbers when we first meet and list the house. I'm going to show the numbers when we get an offer so that they know what they can expect. And then they're going to see the numbers again on the HUD settlement statement. So they're seeing them 3 times with me.
I think one of the hardest things I've navigated is after helping a client purchase a house, and just a couple years later, they're wanting to sell because they were pressured to purchase the property they were in, not by me, but by the market.
Yeah.
And so they may be in a house that wasn't actually what fit their needs, and they need to sell now. And now they're not getting the benefit of what the seller benefited when they purchased the house. And the conversation is sometimes not so pleasant. So how would you navigate showing a seller's net estimate that has a negative at the bottom?
So you have to go to motivation, right? You have to ask great questions. Why do they want to move in the first place? Why is that important to be in the next house, right? If this is, family situation change, maybe they had a baby, maybe they had 2 kids since they bought, and they just need a bigger house. Well, okay, how important is that house, right? And there's some people that we're still working with today that, man, we're barely breaking them even, right? And they just bought a couple years ago. Or, there was one that I just had a conversation with that, guys, you're gonna lose 13 grand.
Yeah.
And they were on the market before with another agent. That agent told them 255. Didn't come to the table with any data. And I asked him, how'd you come to 255? Well, that's just kind of what we wanted, because if we got 255, then we break even, and then we can get up to, Kansas City. So, well, that sounds great. I wish I could get you 255, but can I just be real with you? And that's another question I asked at the beginning of the conversation is, hey, Ashton, I appreciate you having me out. Thanks for showing me home. On a scale of 1 to 10, being 1, I'm just going to flat out lie to you, tell you everything you want to hear, right? Or 10, I'm going to just be completely honest with you, tell you exactly what the reality is, tell you exactly what you need to hear. Where do you want me to be with you today? What do you think they're going to say every time?
Well, I'd hope they'd say 10. Every
single time. They say 10. So the reason I asked that question, I learned this before because now I have their permission to be direct with them.
Yeah.
Right? And just, so then when I say something that they don't really like, guys, I can't get you 255. And they're like, oh, hey, remember, you wanted me to be a 10. You didn't want me to fluff. Your last agent did that, and look where it got you. Didn't sell your house, right? You didn't even have a single showing. So do you want me to still be a 10? Right. And that's all I have to remind them. Do you still want me to be a 10?
Yeah.
And so then, I put their house at 235 and they were going to walk away. To walk away from that, they would have had to bring 13 grand to the table.
Ouch.
Yeah. So they're not selling yet. I hate the situation they're in because they're like, well, we're going to wait till the market goes up here to break even at least. But the problem is where they want to buy is in a stronger market, more expensive market. So if the market goes up 10% here to get them to break even and the market goes up 10% where they're looking to buy, they're going to come out behind. They're going to lose money. Right. Because now that house that they're looking to buy up in Kansas City is going to be worth 10% more. And it's a higher price point anyway to start with. So they're underwater. So I'll just keep following up with them. I didn't get the listing, but they haven't relisted with anybody else. They understand what I'm saying. They understand how, this is what you're saying is right. And we should have known that. So, but it wasn't their fault. It was their previous agent that went in and basically said, hey, what do you want to list it at? I don't have any data because I'm lazy and I don't put any money into
That's the thing that's crazy because I can honestly say if I'm familiar with the neighborhood, I can say exactly what the CMA is going to come up with. I've sold that many homes in the area, but I would never show up to a listing appointment without paper. It doesn't matter what I'm saying. I can say whatever you want to hear to get me what I want. And if without anything to back it up, it's completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
So bringing all the papers, having all the knowledge, very important with a listing appointment.
Yep. So every now and then you're going to come across, objections to pricing, objections to commissions and everything. I'll be honest with the way I present. If you come in that confident with people, right, and you stand out, very rarely does anybody bring up commission with me. Very rarely. And we're not the cheapest in town, right, by far. But I set myself apart and show real value. I show myself as a professional and that I take this very seriously. Here's a plan. We have a game plan for marketing. We have a game plan of how we're going to present your home. We have a game plan on pricing strategy. And oh, by the way, look at all this market research that I did to make sure that you're priced correctly. If you do all that, you stand out. And they do not argue with commission. In the absence of value, the conversation always turns to cost, right? It always turns to cost in the absence of value. So I say that I probably don't have an absence of value with the way I present because my conversation never turns down to cost or comes down to cost of my commission.
Right.
It always is, these are the numbers. This is what you can net, right? Does that work for you, right? If anybody says, can you do it for less because so-and-so said they'll do it for less, my response is, I'm not a discount broker, but let me ask you this. If so-and-so said they'll do it for, let's say, 5%, how did that conversation come about, right? Is it just something you asked them to do? Well, yeah, it's simply, they said that they were charging, let's say, 6%. And, I asked them if they'd do it for 5%. And they just said, yeah, I'll do it for that. What worries me about that is if they were that quick to reduce their own commission, how fast do you think they'll talk you into a lower price just to get a quick payday?
That's a good one.
So, again, it's just that's not the real objection. They just want to see if they can possibly save 1% or 2% or something like that. But they don't. If you have a professional involved, you expect to pay a higher premium for any product, whether it's a car, whether it's, anything that you buy. If there's a professional involved, you will always pay more for it. That's why people sell their car by owner, right? And if you buy a car straight from the owner, you expect to get a cheaper deal than if you were to buy from the dealership because the professional, the dealer, is involved. So you expect to pay higher at the dealership. But yet people buy cars at dealerships all the time.
Right.
So it's the same thing, right? And so that's how I'm able to overcome those objections, is just simply show the value. And then if you show the value and you're that confident in what you do, the objections hardly ever come up.
Well, and if you're confident in what you do and you have objections and you can't overcome the objection, have the confidence to walk away and not lower yourself to that. Like for me, I had a listing appointment a while ago. I thought I nailed it. I thought I was going to get the listing. The only thing that was holding me up is I refused to lower my commission to 1.5%. And that's a hefty lowering of my commission.
Yeah.
I can't think of a good way to put that, but
it's a hefty discount.
Yeah, it was a hefty discount on my commission. And I told her, I said, I understand that's very inviting. I said, but I also know what type of work that type of an agent's going to give you. I'm brutally honest when it comes to that because I know the industry and what we do. I said at 3%, I'm going to work harder for you because I'm going to get paid what I want to get paid.
Yeah.
And I ended up walking away from that. I was not going to lower my commission. I had like 13 deals pending at the time. And I told her that. I said, I'm not desperate enough to lower my commission for that. I said, I'll work my ass off for you, but I'm not going to lower my commission. And she actually respected that. She's like, I'm impressed that you would even say that to me. And I'm like, well, that's just how I feel. I said, I love your house. I'd love to help you. I think you're a fantastic couple, but I don't lower my commission. And then I left. It ended fine. She's very pleasant, but she told me I'm going to go with this other agent, which, I mean, at the cost of the house that she was at, that was a huge savings for her.
Yeah, if she sells it.
So
yeah,
just being confident to understand that not everyone is going to be your client too. Like, you can make the choice to not have them as your client just as much as they can make the choice to have you as their agent.
I have the business model that I have right now, and it's still true. It's on my board in there. I only expect to list 40% of the ones I go on, right? And I heard agents before, it says, "Oh, that's really low, and you need to work on your conversion ratio because you should be selling or you should be listing almost every appointment that you go on." I call bullshit, right? I'm going on listing appointments where I think it's a long shot.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just trying to get in front of them. I know that I'm not going to connect with every single seller either, but it's a long shot, and I might get it. I know that some other agent might come in and completely lie to them and say, I can get you more when they don't have any data to back it up, or they become a discount broker and they don't provide any services or anything on the back end. They have nothing. They just list their home, hope some other agent brings a buyer, and they hopefully sell it, right? So I get it. But I would say that if you're listing close to 100% of the homes that you go on or the appointments you go on, you're not going on enough of listing appointments.
Yep.
You need to go on more listing appointments. I go on for sell by owner appointments. I just had a call today with a guy that says, I hate real estate agents, and I don't think... I think their fees that they charge are absolutely ridiculous. And then we started talking about pricing strategy, and we started talking about marketing, and we started talking about what I do differently and everything. And guess what? We're meeting tomorrow morning.
That's hilarious.
So, will I get it? I have no idea. But at least I have a foot in the door, and now I can start building on that relationship and showing him value and everything. And he just might decide to change his mind. But I did ask him a question. Hey, if I could show you a solution or a plan that would net you what you want and I still get paid to help you out, would you be at least open to having that conversation with me? He said, well, I don't see why I wouldn't be open to that. I said, that's all I'm asking for. If the numbers don't work out for you, if going through me doesn't net you what you're looking for, then by all means, you're not wasting, or you're not any worse off than what you are now.
Yeah.
Because you're doing it on your own anyway. So, yeah. So that's how we're meeting tomorrow.
Nice.
So you never know. But, I don't expect to take every single listing that I go on an appointment for. 40% is my business plan. And so I will also say that I have walkaway power. The $1.1 million listing that I took about a month and a half ago, I talked to him over the phone, and he said that his number he wanted was 1.2. And I went out there, did my presentation, showed him the data. There was nothing over 1.1 that's sold. And so you could just see it in his face. Like, he looked dejected. I even asked him, hey, we still good? He goes, yeah. He's like, I'm just starting to realize I'm not getting my 1.2.
Yeah.
I said, well, we'll talk about it in a minute, and I just kind of finished it up. And then I asked them both, him and his wife, what do you see yourself, or where do you see the home selling in order for it to close, right? Where would you tell me to list it? And they both right there on what I put on my net estimate. And I told him, I said, look, I agree with you at 1.1. It's where we need to go, right? You both said 1.1. I agree, right? Here's the deal. If you want 1.2, I'm not your agent.
Yeah.
I won't even take your listing. If you're adamant about trying to get 1.2, I completely get it. You're trying to get all the money that you can, but it'd be a complete waste of my time. I'm putting marketing dollars into this. I'm putting time and energy into it. I will not take your listing.
Mm-hmm.
And he sat there and he goes, so you're telling me you don't want the listing? I said, no, I didn't say that. I want the listing, but I want it with real expectations of what it'd actually sell for.
Yeah.
I'm not going to waste my time. I don't want to waste your time because all it's going to do is piss you off in the end when your home doesn't sell.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do that. So they agreed. They gave me the 1.1, right? So, but I was willing to walk away from that.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be willing to walk away.
So let's say you've met with them and they don't sign right away with you. What do you do?
Well, I'm going out there every time prepared like I'm going to get the listing. Even if I don't think there's any shot at getting the listing, I still have the listing agreement that's all filled out with their name, the net estimate, everything filled out with their name, right? So I go out there 100% of the time ready to take the listing if they're ready to go, right? Even if they say, hey, we're probably a couple weeks out, still trying to interview agents and everything. We're not listing anything when you come out. We're not listing with you. But we're open to hear. I always go out prepared, right? So, because there's some times where they've said that, and then you're like, "Oh yeah, you're our guy,"
Yeah.
and they list with me that night. So, always go out prepared. But if they don't, right, then I set up real expectations of, okay, what's your timeline? You know, when would you like to make a decision, so that I know when to best follow up with you, right? Immediately when I get back to the office the next day or something, I'm writing a handwritten note. So thank you note. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, here's my number. And I put my business card in there. I'm always getting in the CRM, updating my notes from how the meeting went, scheduling the next call date, and everything like that. And I want to make sure that I'm hitting them on a, I guess, a scheduled basis. You know what I mean? So, but most of the time, I remember one. He goes, Colt. He's like, I appreciate all this. We just need to think about it. And I was just, I don't know. I heard Grant Cardone say this, and I'm like, I'm just going to use this line. I'm like, what's there to think about? A thought takes 1 second, right? What do you need to think about? Why don't you just sign the paper and let's do it? And then I was at the point where I'm like, I'm just going to try it. And I tried it, and he's like, you're right. And he signed with me. I couldn't believe it. It worked. A thought just takes 1 second. What do you need to think about? So do I recommend doing that on everyone? No. Right. So you got to understand the different personalities that you're around. But this guy was a high D, like get to the point, give me the data and everything. And then when he said, I need to think about it, high Ds don't need to think about anything. They make decisions right away. Right. So learn, like if it's a high C, and I'm talking DISC profile, right?
Yeah.
DISC. If it's a high C, they're very analytical. They need to think about it. They need to make sure that they're making the right decision. They got all the information. So in something like that, it's what information can I prepare for you that would help you make a decision, right? So that next time we call, we can have that discussion, right? So I'm just, it depends on the type of personality, right?
I'm thinking about different personalities I've encountered, and like I've met with people of all kinds of personalities, and I know immediately based on a personality if I'm going to get the listing or not, because I'm not as good as you yet at coming down to a C. I'm a very high D myself, so I can be super direct. That's not a problem. But the analytical one, I'm like, I really wish my husband had taken this listing appointment because I have a hard time meshing with that person. If they're super fun, like light about the whole thing, I know I'm going to get the listing easily because they're already eager to go buy a house, which that's my favorite part. So I can talk that up super great and get the listing. But it's super important to match the personalities, and I'm still learning it because I haven't gone on nearly as many listing appointments as you. But if I can tell they're a C on the phone, I'm almost at the point where I'm like, I'm just going to give it to you or somebody because I know that that's my weakness. And as much as I want to overcome that, I'd also like to get the listing. And I know what my strengths are, and I want to play off those as much as possible. So, I mean, I know I need to learn how to do it, but a high C, oh man, you nail those. I'm awful at those.
So I took this class when I was with Keller Williams. It's called The Language of Sales. And it talks about mirror and matching. and everything, and tonality of voice, all this kind of stuff, right?
I probably need to take that in all
It was
reality,
a boring class.
which is
I
why I
won't
don't
lie.
want to take it.
It was because it's like, oh, I don't want to learn this stuff, but it was so important, right?
Yeah.
And so now, if you combine that with understanding the 4 different types of personalities, as far as the disc, which I think the disc pretty much covers everybody. So, but if you understand it, right, a high D, man, I could just fly through it, get to the point, and this is what I'm going to do. This is what it says. This is where you need to be at. That's all I want, right? This is my marketing plan.
Those are my favorite.
Those are your favorite because that matches our style, right? But if it's a high I, somebody that's like, they just want to have fun during the process and
I like
everything.
that one too.
Yeah. So then all I know is I just got to build rapport with them, right? We could start talking about, college football if I see stuff on the wall, right? If it's a high I, you're going to know very quickly.
Yeah, they're going to offer you a beer.
Yep. If I know that if I get offered a beer, I'm accepting it every time.
Yeah.
Right? Don't care. I'm accepting it every time. And we're walking around their house with an open beer and we're laughing it up and joking it up. And we hardly hit anything in the listing presentation.
Right.
It's just, hey guys, let's just go through this real quick. But man, this is going to be so fun. We're going to get this house sold and we're going to get you to the next one, right? Not a problem at all. So high S, they want security. They want to know that everything's taken care of. Hey, this is, communication is probably very important to you, right? Awesome. You're going to hear from me a minimum of once a week.
Yeah.
Right? No matter what, does Thursdays work better for you or Fridays work better for you, right? Hey, how much time do you need to get ready for a showing? Do you need a 2-hour block? Do you need a 4-hour block? Do you need prior day's notice? We could set that up. You're going to have full control over all the showing details. You're going to be able to approve it, not approve it, recommend other times if that doesn't work for you. They want to make sure that they're safe in the transaction.
Right.
Right. So I'm going to talk about all the things that we can control in the transaction that's going to make it smooth.
Right.
Right. And a high C, I love high C's, even though I'm not really a high C. But I love high C's because they're very analytical. And I know with all the data I bring them, all I got to do, hey, they don't care anything about marketing or anything. They just, what's the numbers? And how do you come to the numbers? Well, look at this. These 5 on average will sell for this. And your home is this. And here's how I get that. And, so, oh, by the way, I got this one over here. It's kind of, this is what yours looks mostly like. If we were to compare yours to all they want's the numbers.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you have enough, if you go on enough appointments, this is why I love going on a whole lot of appointments, right? Even though not going to get it because it's just more times at bat, right? More chances for a hit. And you get to see the different personalities and you get to play around with how you can interact with them. And then over time, it just, once you understand them and you know which one you're dealing with, it's so simple to just adjust. Just pivot how you present, focus on some things, not on others, and you pretty much win it every time.
It's funny because I don't work with a lot of investors because most investors are C's, and I've learned that. And I actually have a couple of investors I work with right now, but I have one in particular that he loves paper. And so before every showing I go on with him, he has a stack of paper, if it's the disclosures, the taxes, his buyer estimate, like anything showing what he's going to have to deal with, that's what I bring with him or bring to him. And he is stoked. Like, he never gets, like, super happy about anything until he sees that paper. And he's like, you did it again. And I'm like, yes, I did. So I'm learning it on the buy side. It's just tweaking it on the listing side for sure.
Yeah. No, it's cool. Dealing with different people. It's, you can really make a game out of it. And honestly, that's the way you probably should go about it. Just make it a game and just try to get better with each of the different personality types. But I would say out of everything, just to recap, is be professional.
Absolutely.
And actually come in with data supporting everything. There's no reason why you shouldn't. Have a game plan on how you're going to market, everything like that. And then just have a good follow-up system in place because you're not going to get every one of them. The low-hanging fruit is low-hanging fruit for a reason. The fortune's in the follow-up. It truly is. So just because I don't get a listing, I'm going to continue to follow up with them until they list with somebody else.
Yep.
Right. So, but, if you look at the statistics for follow-up, after about the 3rd or 4th follow-up, 90% of your competition is out. They will never even follow up again. So you just stay top of mind.
Yep.
especially for sale by owners. If you don't get a for sale by owner first thing, just stay in contact. You should be calling them every week just to check in, see if their house got sold. If it's still on the market, just say, hey, I appreciate it. I'll check in with you next week. If there's anything I can do in the meantime, just let me know. Right. And then send them a handwritten note.
Yeah.
So twice a week, they're hearing from you and seeing from you. So, or seeing you. So it's just staying top of mind. And so I really love this topic. I hope that helped people that are watching this, listening to it. So, we'll get into pricing strategies and all that kind of stuff in a later episode, but we really wanted to hit, how to present a good listing presentation and get ready. And again, watch the video that I posted on how I actually get in the computer, search, do my neighborhood, radius and all that kind of stuff on how I actually look for stuff.
Yeah.
So, check that out. You got anything else before we call today?
Nope, I think you nailed it.
I think I nailed it. I feel like I've been talking this whole time. My throat's all sore. I might need a cough drop. So I appreciate it. Well, thanks for joining us. Again, give us a like and subscribe if you like what you heard today. Hopefully this is of value to you. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. We'd love to have a conversation with you. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.
See ya.